Now, our first witness this morning is anonymous and will be known as Mr. A.W. Let me read out the restriction order guaranteeing his anonymity. The name and address of witness W3023, that's Mr. A.W. to you and me, and any other identifying information, such as the names of members of his family, as well as the witness's image or a description of their appearance, cannot be disclosed or published in any form unless express permission is given by me or by the solicitor to the inquiry acting on my behalf. Witness W3023 must be referred to only as Mr. A.W. This order remains in force for the duration of the inquiry and at all times thereafter, unless otherwise ordered, and I may vary or revoke this order by making a further order during the course of the inquiry. Mr. A.W., you come forward, please.
Mr. A.W., your full name is known to the inquiry. Could you please take the book in your raised hand and repeat after me? I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Mr. A.W., you were diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 18 in December 1992.
Correct.
And you were treated at Luton and Dunstable Hospital and at University College Hospital, London.
Yes, correct.
You've explained in your witness statement that between December 1992 and May 1993, you received a range of different treatments. At Luton and Dunstable in December 92, you received a transfusion of 5 units of platelets and 2 units of blood. And then at University College Hospital between December 92 and May 93, you received 14 units of blood and 15 units of platelets. And then we can also see just from some records that you received some further treatment in July 1993. Henry, could we have 3023015 on screen, please? And we can see here, it's a letter of the 7th of July 1993, and it says, I'm grateful to you for arranging a local top-up blood transfusion with 2 units of leukocyte-depleted blood for this 19-year-old lad with ALL. And then if we have 3023016, please. We can see from your notes that in addition to the treatment you've identified in your witness statement, you received in June platelets on a number of occasions through into early July when you received 2 units of packed red cells.
Yeah, so that's following the bone marrow transplant, which was the final part of my treatment. Yeah.
And the bone marrow transplant you had in May at University College Hospital.
Correct, yeah.
In April 93, the test showed that you were clear from leukemia. And you essentially got on with your life after that.
Yeah.
You had checkups initially monthly, but afterwards on an annual basis.
Correct, yeah.
And you felt pretty well?
I think it took a little bit of time to get back to normality. Just as a teenager of that age, it took me a little while to get up to what I felt normal, comfortable, confident in myself. So probably, say a year after the treatment had finished, but actually say I was probably back to my sort of normal health.
It was then 10 years later, in 2003, that you received a letter from Luton and Dunstable Hospital. Now, we don't currently have a copy of that letter, but what can you recall it saying?
There was a letter I received where from the previous appointments had been seeing at the haematology department, where they'd noticed some liver issues, shall we say, in terms of the results in the blood. And then I was to be going to actually see a different haematologist, different name, someone I hadn't seen before, to go in an appointment I didn't know too much about, really. So for me, it's a complete surprise.
And so you went along to this appointment, and what did the consultant say to you?
I do remember the words vividly. I think the first words that he mentioned was, "Do you actually know why you're here?" And I think that was, at that point in time, okay, there was a bombshell about to be dropped. So, yeah, vividly remember those words being mentioned to me, just me and myself, a consultant I hadn't seen before, never in all the different visits I'd had to the hospital, never seen this chap before. So that's when he said, we give you the news. He said, unfortunately, it looks like you're hepatitis C positive. So.
Can you recall if you were given any information at that stage about prognosis or treatment?
Not a great deal, really. I think when you get hit with health news, this was obviously the first time, this was 10 years plus after having obviously the leukemia side of things, so your brain goes into a bit of a fog, shall we say. But yeah, I don't really remember too much information. I think in my head, hepatitis C, didn't know too much about what hepatitis C was. I think probably I banded it in as something similar to what HIV is essentially, and how and why essentially was kind of buzzing around in the head.
We're going to look at a couple of documents related to that appointment. Henry, could we have 3023005, please, first? And we can see it says this. It's dated the 16th of April 2003. It relates to a clinic on the 14th of April. And it says, thank you for referring this 28-year-old man to clinic. He was unfortunately unclear as to the reason for his attendance. And when I explained it was because his liver function tests were abnormal and that he had been found to be hepatitis C positive in September 2000, he appeared rather shocked. His risk factors for hepatitis C are clearly the multiple transfusions he would have had in 1993 when having treatment for ALL. At present, he's completely well and has no symptoms of liver disease. I've arranged for him to have hepatitis C PCR and a liver ultrasound, and assuming the PCR is positive and the ultrasound normal, we'll arrange for a liver biopsy thereafter. So we can see from that you're described as unfortunately unclear as to the reason for your attendance, and you are told that you have hepatitis C, but that you were found to be positive in September of 2000.
3 years earlier.
Was there any discussion with you at that first appointment as to why you were only being informed of this in 2003?
With it being such a long time ago, I can't really recall why the reason for the time lapse as such. I do actually, one thing I do probably recall at the time, that the consultant may have mentioned that because it being a slow acting thing, we don't have to kind of catch these things quickly. I think that kind of was the kind of reassurance was, okay, it's not too much of a bad thing, it's those years have passed as such. So I do remember that being mentioned to try to put my mind at rest, shall we say, but didn't seem to as such. So yeah.
We'll just look also at the consultant's records of that attendance. Henry, it's 3023007, please. And we can see it's the first entry for the 14th of April 03. Has C, or it might be Hep C, positive 2000, didn't know why here, exclamation mark. And no explanation in the records of that appointment as to the delay in informing you. So from your perspective, you were told out of the blue that you had hepatitis C.
Yep.
If we have up on screen, please, 3023002, we can see this is a letter written by a consultant at the Royal Free Hospital where you were subsequently referred, and we can see the consultant's view again set out as to what the cause is or was of the hepatitis C. And many thanks for referring this 28-year-old man and sending his liver biopsy slides for review. He first became aware of hepatitis C virus infection in April 2003. This was discovered as part of his routine follow-up for ALL. And then it says this: at first diagnosis of ALL, he received blood transfusions and blood products, and this is the likely source of transmission of hepatitis C. You've seen a number of doctors in different hospitals in relation to this. The impression created by your records is that all are of the view that the cause of your hepatitis C are the transfusions you received in late 92 or 93.
Right. Yeah.
No one suggested to you that there's anything about your life or lifestyle that would lead to a view of a different cause.
No.
If we then have up on screen, please, 30230003, please, Henry. We can see this. It's a letter of referral to Professor Deshako at the Royal Free Hospital. You were referred there by the consultant you saw at Luton and Dunstable after the clinic in which the news was broken to you.
Yeah.
And we can see what's said there. I wonder if you would be kind enough to see this somewhat anxious 27-year-old who's recently been diagnosed with hepatitis C-related liver disease. He was treated in the 1990s for ALL and had a bone marrow transplant in 1993, when he obviously had a number of blood products. He is well from that point of view now, but the haematologist noted that he was hepatitis C antibody positive. And then it says this: in fact, they found this on a blood test from 3 years ago, which only came to light this year. Mr. AW is rather upset that this has taken a long time to discover. And then there's references to liver function tests showing a persistently raised ALT at around 170 and a liver biopsy showing features suggesting early cirrhosis. Is it correct to say you're rather upset? You were rather upset it had taken 3 years to tell you of your results?
Yeah, pretty much.
Had you been aware in 2000 that you were even being tested for hepatitis C?
Not in the slightest.
Now, could we have up on screen, please, Henry, 30230006? This is a letter from January 2003, and it may be that this helps explain why a letter was then sent to you inviting you to come in to see the clinic. It says, I wonder if you would see this 28-year-old gentleman. He remains in remission from the leukemia, but more recently I've noticed that his liver function tests show a raised ALT. And then it says, looking back in his notes, he was hepatitis C positive when checked in September 2000, when the first abnormality in his liver function test was detected. So it would appear that in early 2000, consultants looked at your notes and picked up upon the 2000 record in the context of considering abnormal liver function tests.
Yes.
Had you been told that there was anything abnormal about your liver function tests prior to 2003?
Nothing at all. There was a point, probably around about the 2000 period from memory, the only thing that was picked up at that point in time, which was quite a common thing from the treatment, the blood transfusions being given, the body and the liver stores too much iron. So the iron levels were quite high, and dangerously high, I think, to a degree. So the normal thing from that procedure then is just to give blood. So it was around 2000, would you say, roughly? 2001 period. 2000. Where probably on a quarterly basis I'd have to go in just to give blood, and over time they would check and just see to make sure those iron levels would come down to sort of a normal level. So that was something, the only thing, should we say, that around that time I was given sort of notification of and some action against those, but nothing else.
We'll have a look and see what opportunities there might have been between 2000 and 2003 to tell you of the diagnosis earlier. We'll start, please, Henry, with 30230008, which is a later letter. It's dated March 2006, and it's sent from haematologist to the Legal Services Department within the Trust. The context for that, I think, is you approached solicitors and there was some consideration being given to the possibility of bringing a claim.
Yeah.
and we can see this. We cannot deny that the hepatitis C infection was detected in September 2000, and Mr. AW was not informed of this result until April 2003. And then it says this. However, this was at least in part due to his failure to attend an outpatient appointment at the time the result first came available, and several appointments before and after. And then it goes on to say, when the oversight was recognised, you were promptly informed and referred to the gastroenterology clinic. We'll look then at the previous years and see whether what's said here could be correct. Could we have, please, Henry, first of all,
Just
Yes.
pausing there for a moment. So far, there have been two explanations for the delay. One that it was, I think that was 003, only just come to light when it appears they've been in the records all the time. And this, that it was his fault for not attending an outpatient appointment when it might have been discussed. But it goes on to say, when the oversight was recognised, he was referred to the gastroenterology clinic. And I thought the inference from the documents you'd shown us a moment ago were that the reason for his referral was because of his high liver enzymes.
Yes, that appears to be what the other letters say.
So this is a different view of what took place.
That would seem to be the case. We are inviting the hospital to respond to Mr. AW's statement in this documentation.
Yes, thank you.
So, Henry, could we have 30230014? We can see this is a letter from September 2000. It says, Dr. Regman's asked me to write to you as we've sent several appointments to you, but you failed to attend. So there were non-attendances prior to September 2000. This says he would like you to have a further blood test, and I'm therefore enclosing the necessary forms. Please could you come to the pathology department to have these tests done at your own convenience? And then the second paragraph says, when we have the results of these tests, we will write to you again. In the meantime, we'll be sending you an appointment for January 2001, which will be your next review in the clinic. So that's the invitation in September 2000 for you to come and have blood tests. No explanation in the letter as to what the blood tests were for.
Nope, nothing there at all.
You did go,
Yep.
in response to this letter, to the pathology department, and you did have the blood tests.
Yep.
This letter suggests that when they have the results, they'll write to you again. Did you ever receive a letter telling you the results of those September 2000 blood tests?
No.
We'll look then at your next attendance, which was in February 2001. Could we please have, Henry, 3023009? This is, again, it's a later letter in the context of the litigation, but it gives us some dates. It says, I first saw Mr. AW on the 21st of February 2001. He'd missed a number of clinic appointments since the 12th of January 2000. So again, clinic appointments earlier, before your blood test, not afterwards. He had come up for a blood test on the 18th of September 2000, but without actually being seen. You hadn't been invited to be seen, you'd just been invited to go to the pathology department for a
blood
test,
test,
which
yeah.
is exactly what you did.
Yeah.
And then the doctor continues, when I saw him, I didn't appreciate the fact that he'd not been told his hepatitis C result previously, and then refers to subsequent visits and rising ALT liver enzyme levels. So the doctor who saw you on the 21st of February says here that that doctor did not appreciate you hadn't been told your hepatitis C result. And if we just look at the record of the notes of the attendance, well, we'll look at two documents. We'll look at a letter, first of all, to your GP following that clinic. 3023013, please. So we can see the haematologist writing to your GP. Again, there's the reference to you having been lost to follow-up, but that's all before September 2000. And then it says you remain completely asymptomatic, you've been completely well in the last year, weight is stable, refers to examination, full blood count completely normal, giving you an annual follow-up. So no reference to anything to do with hepatitis C blood result, No reference to anything to do with abnormal liver function
Nope.
tests. And if we look at the notes, Henry, it's 302317, please. We can see that the entry for the 21st of February 2001, they've got your new address now, we see halfway down the page. We can see you obviously attended in February 2001, various matters there set out, but nothing to do with hepatitis C. That was February 2001. You attended, in fact, again, in October of that year, October 2001. It's 302312, please, Henry. You'd gone for a check-up on the 15th of October 2001 in view of your previous history in relation to the leukemia and the bone marrow transplantation, and you're seen in the haematology department. There's a discussion of your leukemia, no evidence of recurrence, and a normal blood picture. Again, October 2001, you're seen again.
Yep.
No one tells you anything about liver function results
Nope.
or hepatitis C.
Nope.
And if we have 302320, please, Henry. And we can see here in the first half of the page the clinic notes for that attendance in October 2001, hepatitis C not referred to there. So we've had February 2001, October 2001. We come on to March 2002. Could we have, please, Henry, 302311? This is, again, a letter from the haematologist to your GP. It refers to a clinic on the 6th of March 2002, so you've attended. You've had your annual review in the haematology clinic. He remains well and has been free of infections over the last 1 year. Refers to blood count, blood film, clinical examination, and that you're in complete remission. Next review will be in a year's time. And if we look at the clinic notes, 302320, this time the bottom half of the page, we can see again that you've been seen there. These are the records that have been recorded by the doctor. A further opportunity to tell you of the blood result, the hepatitis C, and nothing was said to you. That was March of 2002. You were seen again in December of 2002. 302310. We can see it's a letter of the 21st of December 2002. It refers to a clinic on the 18th of December. And we can see in the first sentence you've attended for your routine review earlier because you were starting a new job in the January.
Right.
And you wanted to get the appointment done.
Yep.
And we can see there set out, you're described as clinically and symptomatically well with no clinical problems. There's a reference to haemoglobin and platelets, and a reference to discussions about the possibility of starting a family.
Yep.
If we go to the notes for that appointment, we can see in the letter there's no reference to hepatitis C or liver function tests of any kind. But can we look at 302318, please, Henry? The notes show a different picture. 18th of December 2002. We have various things there set out. Starts new job in January, etc. All well, no problem. Fertility discussed. C 1 year. And then someone's written, we don't know whether it's the same date or a later date. The handwriting does look as though it might be different. Hepatitis C positive, September 2000. Rising ALT, refer to hepatologist. Was that drawn to your attention in December 2002?
No, not at all.
So nothing until that April 2003 appointment that we've looked at.
Yep.
If we have one further document on screen, please, Henry, it's 302319. This is a letter, again written perhaps in the context of the threat of a legal claim, because it's from the hospital's litigation advisor to the haematologist. It says, thank you for your memorandum dated the 9th of September 2004. Your comments are noted. Pausing there, you've not seen, I think, a copy of that memorandum.
No.
And then it refers to a potential claim against the hospital in respect of the failure to inform you of the result of the hepatitis C blood test. And then it says this, it's pleasing to note that steps have been taken to improve the review and follow-up of the laboratory results. Has the hospital explained to you what steps have been taken to improve the review and follow-up of laboratory results? Or?
No, this one is an interesting one. So in terms of my records, certain things you just glare and jump out at you, and this one in particular was interesting because obviously this memorandum must have some sort of information based on me myself. So it would be helpful to kind of see what reference is actually made in this in terms of what was done to improve those steps.
And I understand you would like to both see the memorandum and also know what had led to the identification of a need to improve the review and follow-up of laboratory results.
Yeah.
Now, if we then go back to April 2003, when you were given the diagnosis of hepatitis C, you say in your statement that the constant thought you've had and have had since then and not been able to expel is about whether there are others in the same position as you. Could you elaborate upon that?
Yeah, so I think for me, for definite, it was having a strange one, almost like a fortunate to be found and know I have that. And in my head had this kind of image of all the times when I had the transfusions given, and there's this potential that there was someone next to me in a hospital bed in a ward. Someone had maybe some sort of bike accident, needed 2-3 pints of blood given to him, and that person, same blood type, and then let's just say they go on fit, healthy lifestyle, 10-15 years, nothing's wrong at all, and all of a sudden certain things start to change. They go to see the GP. GP says, okay, maybe we need to do some tests on you. And that person, or persons, who knows, then has that terrible news and finds out that they are 15 years plus. And whereas for myself, that for me didn't seem right. Could I actually be just that one person? It just didn't seem right. And I had that fear of is there other people in that same boat that don't get to know when I did. So, yeah.
I want to ask you a little about the impact of the diagnosis on you. You describe in your statement how you became very introverted in a deep place.
Yeah. Probably just after my 30th birthday, and I do remember at the time one vivid instance of going to a certain friend's birthday party, and at the time I just started the treatment. Mentally, being in a social environment did have an effect on me as a person. Confidence, just being in a social environment with other people, in a gathering area. I did tell kind of the close-knit friends that I had at the time. I think some of those did understand, and obviously they knew what happened to me 10 years earlier. But I don't think they fully understood what Hep C was as a condition. And I do remember being in certain instances, and just from a mental perspective, it just definitely changed me as a person. The mental impact was hard.
You said in your statement you didn't take antidepressants, but in retrospect you've wondered whether you should have done and that they might have helped.
Yeah. They I think definitely from my side, having the treatment I went through 10 years prior and the drugs you're given at the time, I suppose really for me, knowing I had to take 2 sets of drugs for the Hep C, the last thing I probably wanted was additional medication on top of what I was having. So my stubbornness, I guess, was just to go with what of this concentrate on this issue first, as opposed to the mental side of things. Really, obviously, things have changed a hell of a lot now in a different world when it comes to mental health and how it's perceived. But for me, my core focus was getting over the treatment and get through the treatment.
And did you receive any offer of counselling or psychological support?
Not from memory.
Are you physically had felt okay, that you weren't, as far as you know, experiencing any physical symptoms of hepatitis C?
Absolutely not.
But you were told that there were potentially signs of moderate liver damage, and so you were referred, as we've seen from the
for
correspondence,
biopsy.
to Dr. DeShaco.
Yeah.
You had your liver biopsy and ultrasound scan.
Yeah.
And then in October 2003, you were seen at the Royal Free. You were told your genotype, which was 3A. And it was recommended to you that you embark upon pegylated interferon and ribavirin. And you say in your statement that the potential side effects were spelt out to you by the doctor at the Royal Free.
Yeah, they did say that obviously there's a variety of side effects. Everyone's different in terms of how those side effects kind of hit you as a person. So yeah, it's kind of what was going to come. But yeah, I had no idea in terms of how it would affect me, and obviously everyone is different. So
You started the 6-month course of treatment in August 2004. How was that?
To know, it's going into the unknown again, really. I suppose in some ways, being of a benefit, I don't call it a benefit as such, but having the treatment I'd had 10 years prior, that having to take more medication for a prolonged period, how it's going to affect you as a person, how it's going to affect the people around you, having to inject yourself. So, yeah, it's not just how it's going to affect you, but it's how it's going to affect the people around you as well. And then the unknown of once you start taking them, what sort of side effects are going to come and be seen. And obviously, for me, the side effects did build, and they got to a point where I think after the 6-month period, I had to stop the treatment probably 5 months in.
You've described in your statement physical symptoms, loss of appetite, loss of weight, fluctuating thyroid functions.
Yep.
And after about 4 months, you felt so ill, you were having severe palpitations.
Yeah. I think the palpitations were the ones which were probably the big thing, really. So it's not nice.
And that led to your decision to stop the treatment early.
Yeah, through the consultant I was seeing at the time at the hospital, the reaction my body had given to the drugs, clearing the virus, I think fairly early on. They were confident of thinking that really at that point in time it'd be a good point to stop rather than going for the full 6-month cycle.
Your mum's provided a statement to the inquiry, and she talks about the psychological effects of the treatment on you. She said it made you angry, you could fly off the handle. We've heard descriptions of mood swings and anger from a number of witnesses who have undergone this particular course of treatment. She says you felt unclean.
Yeah, I think the uncleanness is probably that early kind of the mental side of things, and as I mentioned, that scenario there being out in a social environment, how you're perceived, the paranoia was a big thing. That's the vivid thing in my mind, the paranoia being out, and I think as well it's since that point in time, there's only certain people that probably have kind of known about hepatitis C and have actually told. So it's not something I've kind of divulged in only to certain people, really. So it's kind of kept in, and even my friends probably at the time, they probably won't even know about. I've mentioned to 1 or 2 close friends about the inquiry and everything, but it's not something I feel I can kind of talk about too much, really.
You were worried you might have infected your wife.
Yeah.
You hadn't,
Well,
but
yeah.
that was a cause of
That
concern.
spun through the head, that moment sitting in with the consultant, and do you know what you're here for? And that was very... Yeah. Just think it straight off the bat, and yeah.
And you were worried about the strain that it would place on your relationship with your wife.
Exactly, as well. So
You will come on to your employment in a few minutes, but you weren't during the treatment working, and your wife ended up reducing her full-time employment to part-time in order to assist you.
Yep.
And so it was financially hard.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
In mid-2005, following further blood tests, you were told that you were clear of hepatitis C.
Yeah.
What follow-up in terms of monitoring of your liver have you received since the hepatitis C treatment was completed?
So, from kind of being discharged off from the Royal Free, from the treatment of Hep C, there was no follow-up from beyond that point. Up until recently, we're only talking in the last sort of 6 months, where I'd had 2 phone calls, evening phone calls from my GP surgery. One was an out of the blue call, very quick question, just need to ask you, were you ever informed or told or have any evidence that you were fully cleared and discharged from the hospital where you had the treatment? And quizzically getting a call from your GP in an evening randomly out of the blue was enough of a shock anyway. So that started putting sort of questions in the mind, and the cogs start turning again, saying, okay, what's happened here? And this was probably, from a timing perspective, I would say probably six to 3 months prior to the inquiry starting. So that I probably put 2 and 2 together potentially. And more recently, I've had a few trips to the GP surgery, and I'm not tied into a dedicated GP there. I tend to have 2 or 3 GPs which I kind of trust in. One of these was a newer gentleman, quite newish to the surgery, and I went for a different symptoms at the time, and he was just looking through my notes and said, regarding hepatitis C, when were you last tested? And I said, well, I haven't been tested. And he said, okay, I think it might be just good for you potentially just have a random test just to make sure everything's okay in that area. And I was taken aback by that a little bit. I'm thinking, well, this was 15 years prior, and could it return? Can it return? So I did have a blood test done, and from that there was nothing found. Obviously, and the antibodies obviously still remain in the system, but they did say, oh, we have found raised levels in the liver. The ALTs, I think it was, or the FTs, I'm not sure which one, but he said, I need to refer you to the gastroenterologist. Okay, so I thought, okay, what kind of pathway is this leading to? So I then had to go to have an ultrasound. Ultrasound was done probably, talking 3 months, in the summer this year. So I went to have the ultrasound done. And then back to see the GP, and the GP said, okay, we've noticed from the ultrasound results that the liver is quite bright. It's quite bright. So from that, he said, I need to get you referred in to seeing a gastroenterologist. So a few weeks after then, I went to see a gastroenterologist at the hospital. Again, that was a kind of a moment of thinking, am I going into a situation again where you're just going to be given that kind of bombshell news? So there was a little bit of apprehension. Yeah. What was going to be found, should we say? Positive. The good news, I think, really was reassured straight away that there was no scarring found on the liver. So they said the scarring, there's no visible scarring there. The brightness in the liver from the ultrasound probably would be down to a number of different things. Could be down to cholesterol, which, as it happens, my cholesterol was slightly raised. It could be down to blood pressure, but it's more of a case of a dietary change or just a health style change, really. So there's nothing there. She said, I don't really need to see you from any follow-up from that side, but this is only really recently, this is talk in the summer of this year.
So between 2005, after you'd cleared hepatitis C and you've been told you'd cleared it,
Yes.
from that point until 2019,
Correct, yeah.
there was no
Yeah.
follow-up in terms of liver.
Yeah, and like I said there, for them to have that kind of brought back into your foreground again, saying, okay, it was definitely kind of that fear factor kind of started to creep back in again. Yeah, thinking, well, hang about, should I not have been every year in the same way after the leukemia? You're going to be given an outpatient view of things, but no, given nothing at all.
Now, you and your wife had wanted to have children, but because of the cancer treatment you'd had, the treatment for your leukemia, you had to go down a route of IVF.
Correct, yes.
So you needed to do that anyway. That wasn't due to hepatitis C. But your hepatitis C diagnosis did cause problems in terms of where you could have your IVF.
Yes. So with the fact that the hepatitis C antibodies obviously were found in me, that you're restricted. So the first thing we were kind of told was we can't freeze any embryos, or from my side, from us essentially, there would be only 2 clinics available for you in the UK that would actually allow you to go and have the IVF treatment. Okay, it was two clinics, and Chelsea Westminster was the one of choice we went with eventually. But yeah, having that kind of be told again, you're hitting up another hurdle, and it felt like, okay, well, another kind of kick in the teeth at something you want to have, and being able to restrict it down to 2 clinics, or the other alternative would have been obviously to seek further afield.
Your mum, again in her statement, explains how everything that you've described caused you to lose confidence and self-esteem. And she says it wasn't really until you saw a Panorama programme in 2017 that you began to be able to speak a little more freely about what had happened.
Yeah. Just sitting, watching that programme was not just probably me watching that, but many others out there. Just seeing that was incredible.
And you also saw or heard evidence given during the first week of the inquiry hearings,
Yep.
in which there was a witness who spoke about infection with hepatitis C, again through transfusions post the autumn of 1991.
Yep.
And when you heard that evidence, you felt, I think, less alone in what you'd experienced.
Yeah, we just were sitting watching News at 10, probably first, second week of the trial. It was just the moment of, just sort of blown away. It was, I knew, it was just, for me, it was like, I knew I wasn't the only one. Yeah.
What was the effect of the hepatitis C diagnosis and the treatment that you then had to go through on your wife, your partner, and on your parents?
It's not something probably I've talked about enough with them, but I know that, like I said before, it's not just you that having to deal with it. You have that periphery around you that having to see the effects it's having on them.
We have a statement from your mum to the inquiry as well in any event, which we've read. What happened in terms of your employment? You'd been in work at the time of your diagnosis. What then happened?
At the time, I had started in the January of 2003 with an IT company at the time. It's kind of my second job post-university. Probably from a company perspective, very small. I probably was in probably not a fantastic company to be in at the time, to be supportive, should we say, of my scenario. I mean, since that point in time, I've worked for a lot, say, bigger companies and companies that kind of can know and understand. And I've seen people being in situations where they've been given support, time off, things like that. So I was in this small company. I obviously told them my situation, the diagnosis, and I wouldn't probably need time off work as such. It wasn't long after that I could see things changing, and I was put in a position where literally I was, should we say, pushed out of the company. So they're talking, only been there sort of 5 months at that point in time. So then knowing you're jobless and at the same time having to then deal with a condition, about to have treatment for a condition as well. So it's not a nice scenario to be in. And
you were worried that you would not be able to get further employment because you didn't know how you'd explain your 14 months out of work.
Yeah. That was the other thing. I was thinking, okay, well, at some point I need to get myself back into employment. you're going to be looked at and say, okay, what's happened in this window? Why have you been out of work for that point in time? If I mention a hepatitis C, how's that going to come down on a prospective employer? Does it make me employable still? So that was a constant kind of worry in the head as well.
You have happily been able to obtain subsequent
Yeah,
employment.
I think the blessing for me was in February 2005, started again with a small IT company, but this one was a very, very good one, and there was no look back, shall we say, and of my kind of history, and it was spent 5.5 years at this company. It's probably the best company I've ever worked with.
One of the other problems has been the effect on your ability to get life insurance.
Yeah, that's been a challenging one. I think it's a combination of both. So with the leukemia plus hepatitis C, life insurance in the very early days of once we'd got our first house, a few years after, looking at insurance policies, you go through, you get to ask the standard questions. When there's questions, they get ticked. That's it. Sorry, we can't take things further. It's got to the point really that thinking after such a window, things would be made easier. Haven't. So to the point now where have got life cover, shall we say. It's kind of based on an American company that I've gone with. So it's not your standard. Yeah, it doesn't cover you for that kind of the illness side of things. So I have some cover as such, but so that's been another challenging thing ringing through. You can't. Again, you're sort of deemed as a second-class citizen in some ways, and there's that blocker there.
And you were not eligible for any payment from the Skipton Fund.
Correct.
We can see a letter it's a different reference, please, Henry. It's 2926003. And it's page 3, please. And we can see it's a letter written by the Department of Health, Jane Ellison, to your mum's MP. And it says, I'm sorry to read that Mr. AW is not eligible for the Skipton Fund. As your constituent highlights, only those who have contracted hepatitis C as a result of receiving blood or blood products from the NHS prior to September 1991 are eligible to apply. This is because the Skipton Fund was set up with a specific purpose of providing ex gratia support to those who were infected before blood donor screening tests were introduced. As Mrs. AW suggests that her son was infected with hepatitis C during the course of his treatment for leukemia from December 1992, he is over 15 months away from this point of eligibility. And I understand you've since approached the EIBSS but had a similar response.
Yeah, my mother's she's gone down that path, and it's from a timing perspective, obviously post 91.
You've referred in your statement to a letter from a legal advisor representing the National Blood Authority. It's dated 8th of July 2005. We don't have the letter at the moment, but you've quoted from it, and it says this: we understand from our client, National Blood Authority, that the transfusion history indicates a significant donor exposure. Unfortunately, our client is unable to investigate all of these donations, and such an investigation is, in any event, likely to produce a definite conclusion. And you've said in your statement you think that's a typographical error in the letter. It's should be unlikely to produce a definite conclusion. So there has clearly been some contact. I think it may have been through your mother with the legal advisor to the National Blood Authority back in 2005. You're not aware of there having been, I think, any more recent contact with the transfusion service?
No.
You say this, Mr. AW, in your statement. You'd like to know if there's anyone else in your situation who was infected so late, post the 1991 screening, and you would like to know what happened and how it happened to you.
Yeah.
And you pose this: was it really just a freak accident and the blood donor just slipped through the net? Those are the questions I have for you. I'm going to ask Mr. Snowden if there's anything else he would like me to ask. There's nothing further. Is there anything you would like to say?
Just a thank you, really, to my family, their support, their patience, me as a person. Especially my mother, she's been fantastic in terms of what she's done, taking things this far. Also my wife as well, and what she's had to go through with myself. Probably this is a bit of a strange one at the moment. I mean, for someone to thank MPs, I'm going to thank 2 MPs. For Dinah Johnson, what she's done, it's been immense, and what she's been done to promote the message of what's happened, and Andy Burnham as well. So those 2 MPs, to thank them for their efforts and taking things to where things have got to now.
Thank you. Sir Brian.
Well, what you've described to us is a sense of anxiety, apprehension, which has been added to by a sense of isolation until recently. You described yourself at one stage almost as being paranoid. We are very grateful that you've overcome those feelings, and it can't have been easy to come here today, even with the protection of anonymity, and tell those who are here what you find it difficult to tell some of your friends. It's important to hear evidence like yours for all sorts of reasons. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll take a break until 11:30.
And so I should say that there'll be no live streaming of the next witness, who is also anonymous. Their evidence will not be live streamed.
So if anyone is watching remotely, they should know that the next witnesses, the remaining witnesses of the day...
No, just the next witness.
The next witness.
And then the live stream will be on again this afternoon.
Yes, I was going to say the next witness, who will, after lunch, and the 2 witnesses after lunch, will both be fully available on stream. But not the next. 11:30.